Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, it's never enough? You're hustling, grinding, pushing yourself to the limit, but you're still unfulfilled. I know I talk a lot about the equipped woman living purposed, productive, and prosperous. But what if I told you that productivity can actually become an idol? Now, I know this may sound a little contradictory, but I want you to stick with me because it can actually distract you from God's purpose in your life. But today we're going to uncover the hustle culture and how it can actually pull you away from how God wants you to move forward. And I'm also going to share how to realign your productivity with His will. Of course, I'm going to be sharing some biblical wisdom to help you break free from the idol of productivity. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to recognize the warning signs of misplaced priorities, how to put God back in the center, and why true productivity begins with Him. And the first thing that I want to share with you are the warning signs of idolatry in productivity. If we look at Matthew 6:21, it says, "For where your treasure is, your heart will be also." Now, productivity becomes an idol when your worth and identity are tied to your accomplishments rather than to God. When you're so focused on accomplishing your goals, you neglect prayer, worship, and time in the Word. You've allowed productivity to take God's rightful place, and then it becomes an idol. I remember a season where I was so driven to achieve my goals that I stopped prioritizing my time with God. And this can be such a subtle thing that can happen in your life because you're so goal driven, so ready to accomplish what God has given you that you put God on the back burner. I was more concerned with checking off my to-do list and spending those quiet moments with Him. I was moving full speed ahead, trying to do everything that I thought that I was doing the way that He had intended me to do. But it wasn't until I felt completely burnt out and unfulfilled that I realized that productivity was becoming an idol in my life. What I want you to do to make sure that this doesn't happen to you is take an inventory of your daily routine. If productivity becomes an idol and you feel as though that all of the things that you have on your to-do list are becoming a priority over God, I want you to acknowledge it and surrender it back to Him. Pray for Him to realign your priorities so that you don't end up making your productivity an idol. The next point that I want to make is the trap of the hustle culture. If we look at Psalm 46, verse 10, it says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." The hustle culture tells us to keep pushing, keep grinding, keep striving. But God specifically says in His word to rest in Him, to be still, to trust His timing and allow His grace to walk you through. Because we know if we're continuing go, 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 and we're not resting, we know that will lead to quick burnout, health problems, mental health problems, problems in our relationships. So we have to be sure that we're not replacing the things that God had maybe given us the vision to do with actually putting Him and keeping Him in the center of our life. So productivity without His presence is empty. So we keep going and going and going, and we are moving God out of the equation because we think we got this and we don't necessarily need to make sure that He is on the forefront of everything that we do. It's going to be empty and our purpose is not going to be fulfilled in a way that's aligned with what God has for us. And there was a time that I was so focused on productivity in my life, I lost sight of God's voice. And I was so busy and I was really wanting to hear from God and I couldn't understand why I wasn't hearing His voice. Why was He being silent? Why wasn't I getting the direction that I need? I believe the lie that the rest was laziness and that you had to keep going and going and going and you didn't have to stop, because if you stopped, you weren't being productive and you weren't living fully in the things that you are supposed to do. But God kept whispering, "Be still." And it wasn't until I actually surrendered my life to being still in the things that I truly began to experience His peace. And it's so vital to have his peace in the things that he has gifted us to do, because we can get so caught up in those things, so busy in our career, so busy in the business that he's given us to pursue, so busy in the ministry that he's given us, that we remove him out of the equation because, okay, we think, oh, we have this vision and we can move forward. But then if we're not taking time to be still and really hear from him, it can be definitely detrimental to what he has purposed us to do. So I want you to practice intentional rest. Set aside time every day to be still in God. Reflect on Psalm 46:10 and ask God to help you rest in him, even while you work. Now, this is not to remain stagnant, but this is to create that balance where even though he's giving you a vision and you're going full throttle with it, do not allow that to replace the time that you need to rest in him. And the last point that I want to make is aligning your productivity with God's purpose. If we look at Colossians chapter 3, verse 23, it says, "And whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men." So true productivity starts with God. When you seek him first, everything else is going to fall in place. Aligning your productivity with God's purpose means serving him, not yourself, and allowing his path to be what you follow. Not listening to man, but pleasing God in what you're doing and aligning everything to him. When I fully surrendered my plans to God and not try to make plans apart from him, I found clarity, purpose. I had been missing that because I'm like, okay, God gave me this vision. I'm going to move forward with it. But there were some things that I weren't surrendering and I wasn't getting the clarity and peace that I needed to move forward. But it's when I really transformed from trying to do everything ahead of him, is walking side by side with him, is then where I got the clarity and peace that I needed to move forward. I learned that real productivity isn't about doing more. It's about doing what God has specifically called me to do. So if you're in this place, I want you to start your day by asking God to direct your steps. Write down your plans and pray over them, and don't move until God tells you to move. You will only be productive if you are aligning his plan and his purpose for your life apart from what you desire to do. You want to be sure that God is in the center and help him to guide you according to his will so that your will doesn't get mixed up in it. And then you end up going down a place where he has not designed you to go down or assigned you to go down. And again, this is definitely something that is so easy to do, so easy to drift off into the deception of thinking that your productivity is aligned with what God has purposed you to do, but then you're not allowing him to be the center, which allows you to replace him and allows productivity to be your idol. But as an equipped woman, you're living purpose, productive, and prosperous, but it's important to understand that you want to make sure that God is in the center of it and you're not veering off doing your own thing without him being a part of everything that you do. Now, I invite you again to make sure that you have an opportunity to join our free community so that we can continue to cultivate the things that we're learning in these videos, have further discussion. There's a lot of things that I have planned that we can definitely work together on so that we can remain intentional about what God has purposed us to do. Now, if this message encouraged you, be sure to make sure you watch the video that I have linked in the end of this video so that you continue to understand the importance of making sure God is in the center of your life. And I don't want you to fall into the enemy's traps of procrastination and distraction. And that's what I'm going to share in the video that I have linked. Because remember, God's purpose is for you. And it's greater than any hustle that you have going on. And you want to make sure that you are not idolizing things that are putting God in a place where you're compartmentalizing those things and are not allowing him to be in the center so that you can move forward with intention. And you are that equipped woman living purpose, productive, and prosperous. So I'll see you over there in the next video, and make sure you join the free community that's linked in the description.